Hey, Masters of the Forge listeners. I thought I'd do a little video on the progress of building the Zone Mortalis board for our the second half of our campaign. We're going to be using the FaT mats provided by Table War. Thank you so much to Doug and the Table War and Frontline Gaming team for sponsoring this campaign. For the next 3 missions, we're going to have special rules based on the print on the FaT mat, and special rules you can use in your own games when using the FaT mat or whatever table cover you have for the campaign. We really like the FaT mat. We were early adopters. Our store has a bunch of them. The neoprene cover is really great for rolling. I know it sounds a little I don't know, a little funny to say, a little elitist, but it really does make rolling dice easier and moving models across the table a lot easier. Also, it helps with the immersion. Getting a table cover like this done with regular hobby tools is really daunting. I have a Zone Mortalis board that I've been working on for years, I guess. I still haven't finished it yet. This will be done in a few days. So we have 2 mats. We have the Industrial and we have the Underforge. The Industrial is going to be used for our first Zone Mortalis game. It isn't as well suited for Zone Mortalis as the Underforge. The Underforge, I think, was designed with Zone Mortalis in mind. But this one has some interesting features that we want to harness in the narrative of the first mission. 4th mission, but the first mission of the second half. Then the Underforge will be used for the 2 after that. It's got some cool assembly line looking designs, and it's got scaffolding that looks like corridors. You could even use this without walls, really, if you just designate these sections as corridors and place doors wherever you would be allowed to go in. So we would say maybe this is a room, because it doesn't have the same texture as a corridor. And you could just like in the old game of Hero Quest, where unless there was a door there, it was a wall, right? So you could even do that without any walls. But we're going to build walls. So here's the design of the map we're going to be making. You can see where we've designed the walls to section off specific areas on the mat. I know you might be thinking, well, it'll be the same configuration every time. To be honest, this is such an inexpensive method of building a Zone Mortalis board that it's not really that daunting to just add pieces or rearrange pieces. We'll probably create doors at a later date. So here's one of the areas that we've marked as lift. So this is the lift for player 2, and then over on the other side you'll see the lift for player 1. And those will be sectioned off. Fortunately, this FaT mat is kind of pre-marked with by the foot. So this section right here, this kind of wall here, or this channel here, is 4 feet from that edge of the board. So that means that is makes it really easy to section things off. We got a foot here, and then we have the center of the board there. This would have been a detriment in 5th edition, of course, but now in the days of pre-measuring where we don't concern ourselves with such matters, it makes life a whole lot easier. So I'm going to basically be able to use my drawing as a guide, but the FaT mat itself is the real determining factor. I'll probably have some models handy while I'm sizing the boards and really just eyeball it. There's really no reason to measure too much. Alright, so the building materials we're going to use mainly are going to be 1x3s. They're about the right height for most models. Your dreadnoughts might poke their heads up a little bit, but it's not so deep that it'll be hard to move your hand around with the models, and it's not so short that you won't be able to kind of be immersed in the confined nature of the Zone Mortalis. I like wood because it's easy to cut, it's easy to assemble. You can cover up any wood-ish effects with plasticard, really, or any other material. It paints very well, and as long as you seal it up good, it'll hold up for a long time. Also, it's inexpensive. It's a lot less expensive than using pure plasticard or casting or anything like that. Certainly a lot less hassle than casting. So that's what's going to allow us to have a modular Zone Mortalis experience without actually having it be super modular. So we're just going to have multiple pieces that can be placed in different ways, each one custom fitting a certain configuration. It'll be a little bit of extra work, but it'll be a lot less expensive, and it'll look really great on the FaT mat. Some other materials we'll be using are PVC pipe. Imagine this pipe cut in half and then placed like lengthways, and then cut to fit the height of the board. So they're kind of these semicircular cylinders on the side of the wall as like little tanks. This will help us if we ever want to make a wall without any cross members. The cross members will help kind of hold the wall up. But if we ever just need a wall, we can use this to give it a bit more stability so it can be freestanding. We have different sizes of that. We have a little bit smaller size, then very small size. These thicker ones you get at your hardware store, like Home Depot. These little ones you get at your hobby store, your train store, Hobbytown USA, whatever you have. Dowels are great. They're real cheap, even cheaper than the plastic. If you feel like dealing with it, I wouldn't. If you need to cut it lengthwise, though, I wouldn't use dowels because that's a giant pain. The plastic cuts a lot better down the middle than the wood does. Corrugated plasticard of different varieties. Regular plasticard. This is a heavier gauge. This is for if you're doing like building, like you're actually building a thing, like a box or whatever piece of machinery. This plasticard is from signs that you can get at Walmart for like $3 a sheet. Use this if you're doing like simple wall paneling, like we might be doing. Now you can also get strips of plasticard. I highly recommend this if you're doing anything like this where you might have channels and stuff going down your walls, because cutting lengths of plasticard is not worth the money you'll save by not buying this. Alright? Just get a bunch of these. They work great. There's different thicknesses, different widths, different textures. Whatever works for you. They have I-beams. They're cool. This stuff is pretty cool. I know that Justin and Tim have talked about this, and Jason from our show has talked about this granny board here, or granny whatever. This is like for crochet and whatnot. We won't need it for floors, considering we've got the FaT mat, but you might want to put that on your walls. In addition, we're going to reuse some materials, do some recycling. Sprue is a great asset to have for projects like this. Some of it takes a little bit extra work. Like this has a little nubbins on it. I would use that last. Vehicle sprue, though, a lot easier to work with. Just get in with your hobby knife, clip, 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 and you've got yourself some kind of texture for your walls. What I'm going to be using a lot of, I recently bought a whole bunch of the Frontline Gaming Terrain Series buildings, and when you're done pushing them out of the sheets of wood, look at those great little designs left behind. I'm gonna have stacks and stacks of this stuff, so I'm looking forward to just kind of cutting these out and gluing them to the sides of the walls as texture. I think that's going to be great. Also, a couple notes about this stuff. The wood, if you're not someone who works with wood a lot, keep in mind that the measurements aren't exact. They're like if it's a 1x3, it won't be 1 inch by 3 inches. 2x4s are not 2 inches by 4 inches, so be sure to actually measure whatever wood you pick up, because it actually depends on the material you're using whether those measurements will be true or not. So always keep that in mind. So I've marked a piece for cutting this measurement here. Now, you could use a straight edge. I like to just grab the end piece and just draw a line there. Fairly straight. For this task, I'm using my skill saw. As you all know, I'm a fan of blunt instruments. So you'll see here that the def dread won't be able to fit through this door. That's by design. We don't want every room to be accessible by larger models on the 60mm bases, but it does behoove us to allow all 40mm based models to be able to access any room, unless you have a special scenario like where you've got maybe like sneaky grots are able to go through very small places or something like that. So this was done in a couple of hours with 4 8-foot boards. There's a little bit of wood left, but we'll definitely be saving that for the next Zone Mortalis. These are so stable, freestanding, that I don't think I'm going to attach them together. I'm just going to sand them down and leave them freestanding. That way they will be completely reusable and completely modular. The only difference, or the only difficulty I think will be with the designs on the side. I'm going to try to be smart about where I leave spaces. Clearly the ends need to be left without designs. There'll be a few spots along the sides here that I'll leave free of space. Just leaving, every once in a while, leaving just enough room for one of the boards to fit. I think that should work really well. And then as I need different lengths, I'll just do different lengths. It doesn't need to be exact, doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be serviceable. You'll note though that this board, the passages are a bit wider than a standard Zone Mortalis. I think it's a little easier to get lanes of fire. I don't mind that so much. The next board for Mission 5, I think we'll try to make it a little more claustrophobic. Probably have to buy another board. Next I have to sand the ends, probably do that tomorrow, and start clipping out pieces to do our designs with. Also note that I have changed the design a little bit to make it a little bit more interesting. Some extra room type areas, and this whole starting area has changed to more mirror the other side of the board and give more of an even playing field to the two players. And also note that in the montage that I showed, that I built from the outside in, because your tolerance is in the center of the board, where the measurements might start being very off. Use the mat as your guide as to where the pieces of wood will go. Like we have this area that looks like maybe these two deployment areas have these little lifts here, and it's possible that they came down this way and are moving towards the other two lifts. Keep that narrative in mind as you're putting this board together. I've moved the operation to the dining room here. I'll probably put down a cutting board in a second, but I marked all the locations where there's likely to be some kind of join at some point. Arranged all these little cutouts and my plastic, getting everything ready. Using some even spacing, so this is one thing that you might want to think about, is having uniform spacing and patterns throughout your zone Mortalis to give it a manufactured look. So I'll have a bunch of these pieces here, so I might do this pattern every once in a while, or on larger pieces I might do something like that. And when we do that, we'll probably look at actually putting some of this texture underneath it. Give it like a grating kind of feel, like there's some kind of vent there. Certainly in some pieces we'll do some venting. Smaller pieces maybe. Using some of these cutouts right there. We'll cut it straight and put some vents on the walls. But we're gonna get creative here, and I'll check in every once in a while and show you the progress. Alright, so we've gotten quite a bit of work done already, but I still have these pieces to do and this 1 4-foot piece to do, plus the other side of all of these other pieces. I have a lot of work cut out for me tonight, that's for sure. So I've just been using some regular Elmer's wood glue, and on some of the pieces Gorilla Glue. I'm just kind of hoping that the paint kind of seals it all together. So as you can see, I've gone ahead and I've made a spacer tool. So whenever I have an end piece that sometimes gets placed on, I'll draw a line, and I'll take my spacer tool, make it flush, and then draw another line. And I do this all down the line. I'm leaving some space for areas that in the current layout do not have any connectors. So like right here we have this giant space. I'm gonna mirror the vent on the other side, glue that on. Then I still have some space here. What I think I'll do is I'll make another spacer area, then put some kind of machinery here. That way, in case I ever kind of want to put something flush up against there, I can. That's not to say we can't, just put something there right up against the wall, but it's really nice to have those areas where you can say, oh, well, it'll just be flush there, even though it wasn't really kind of made for it. Also, you'll note near where we have a spacer, I've put some plastic card strips. That's to kind of give it just a little bit of a design there instead of just a blank wall. That little strip won't use up much space, but at least it'll show something.
So, I was up until 6 a.m. this morning, finishing the construction process. After a couple hours of shut-eye, I am now prepared to paint. We'll start with black, metallic charcoal, then brown, then red, then some brushwork, and then a matte finish. It appears we shall be ready for the game after the clam bake. Are you not entertained?
So, I've got the spraying down, the rattle can work is done. It is raining out, as you can probably hear behind me. This may take some time to dry. Hopefully it'll be dry enough to use for the game today. We'll see. It's pretty muggy out. Well, thank you so much for joining me in this project. It's not quite finished yet. Again, we've got the spray down. We just need the details, and I'll post those when I finish them. I do have some further walls I'd like to build, but as you can see, this really is pretty good the way it is. We played a game on it last night, and we just had a wonderful time. It's very immersive, as you can see going through. It feels like the interior of some kind of manufactorum. Lots of fun details. I didn't really discuss it in depth, but I think it's really important to go ahead and add things like bits. That's from Thunderhawk, I think. The sponsons for a Lehman Russ are fantastic for a Zone Mortalis board. You can either just have them there as window dressing, or you could actually use them as emplaced weapons. A lot of the time people don't even build their Lehman Russ with any sponsons anyways, so your friends might have them, or you might have them handy. The PVC, cutting it lengthwise is kind of a pain, but that's alright. Works out. Dowel rods, pretty good for making columns. Again, when this is finished, these tops here will be black, just flat black. Same thing with the top of this. I'm going to be dry brushing a lot of these, like the parts you see that are dark. They're going to be kind of dry brushed slightly with the lead belcher, but the tops of everything will be black, flat black. That's to give the indication that it's a cross section. Okay. Some more from like a Land Raider right there, from a terrain kit. I think that a Promethium relay pipes would be great for improving this. If you want to spend the money, buy like 2 kits of the Promethium relay pipes and go ahead and use those in place of the PVC, and I think that'll be a big improvement. We have a bunch of these light fixtures from City Ruins, the GW City Ruins. Those are great. Even using garbage bits, like you'll see here, there's like a bottle top for a soda bottle. These little pipes are made out of like plasticard. They sell them at your hobby store. That, as well as like these thin strips right here, those are also plasticard strips. So much easier to just buy those at your local hobby store rather than having to cut them straight. Much better. That piece is from like a Cromlech or Puppets War Orc Party Bus. You'll see a lot of these here. These gratings. That's window screen, which is very inexpensive. You can get a giant roll of it and it'll last you forever. If you don't want to do the fat mat, you could do like your table cover with that. But honestly, looking at the way the fat mat works with the walls, I mean, how could you not want to do that? That is insanely awesome. As for its modularity, I think going with the freestanding 1x3s is just right. If you look at these dreadnoughts, they're about the right size. My buddy Justin, who was just on episode 55 of our podcast, said that the actual Zone Mortalis boards that Forge World produces are the same size. So that works out perfectly. And also, like, as you can see, they stand freely and they have a good weight to them. So they do move around a little bit as you touch them, but it's not that big a deal. The way I've done these is, you'll notice how at the ends we've got just a little bit of space in case you want to butt it right up against it, or butt it right up against, see, like that. And there's some wiggle room. There's about a 1/2 inch of wiggle room, which I think is going to be important for pieces that are kind of in the middle here. Lots of wiggle room there. And also, it's not that big a deal. Like, as you can see here, I totally forgot to mark that one, but butt it up against there, it doesn't look too bad. I think this is going to work perfectly. I can't wait to I can't wait to pull this up and start working on the Underforge board. We're definitely going to obviously reuse all the pieces from this one, but I think we're going to do I'm going to be making a lot of little pieces so I can make some more intricate and narrow passageways. I'm going to have to be careful about the ones that stick out. During our game last night, we just said, hey, if you have something sticking out like this and it impedes your movement at all, I call it difficult terrain. I think that works fine. If not, you can just pretend it's not there, because I wouldn't not have these, because those are the elements that the guys said they really thought was cool. So we definitely want them. And notice how they create a little base to put them on, glue it to the side, and then it looks like it's part of the floor. The glue I use is mainly wood glue, Elmer's wood glue, which is got some elements to it that make it perfect for this kind of thing. It's got a little bit more adhesive power, a little bit more expensive, but not too much. I used up a whole small bottle of it. It's gone. And then some super glue. You'll notice over time these heavy pieces they're going to break off. But what happens is that wood glue, it stays adhered to the wood, and it's the plastic that breaks off. So if it breaks off, I just go ahead and I super glue the plastic piece to the wood glue couching that's left behind, and it's fine. I honestly do not have the patience to wait for epoxy. So, all right. So I had a lot of fun. Thanks again to Doug from Table War for donating these mats to the campaign. If you want to hear more about constructing custom Zone Mortalis boards, episode 55 of Masters of the Forge will be coming up in a week, which I'm not sure what day that is. But if you go to the website and you only see episode 54, that means it's not out yet, but it'll be up the following Sunday. So thanks again, and thanks for watching.